Oh, a couple miles. Depends on the weight and how the length of it. Yeah, by the time they jam on the brakes, it's way too late. You know, you can use your horn, bell, but most of the time, those circumstances are the person, one, knows they're in trouble or has no idea what's going on. Right, yeah. 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 There's our west fueling rack. 2 rails, so anything that comes off some of these grain, intermodal, coal trains will come up here and get serviced if it needs to. These are usually a little bit smaller inspections, federally mandated inspections. There's one of our fuel contractors that helps us fuel locomotives out here in the yard. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So we have, I don't know if anybody's heard of the big boy in here or not.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
Yeah.
I've seen him probably 1,000 times.
There you go. Yeah, so we have high priority trains, business trains, executive, board member trains, engineering specials with some of our old fleet, our heritage fleet. I actually get an opportunity in August to take the engineering special from Salt Lake to Roseville and get to go over to Winnemucca Sub over that area. So it'll be nice to be my first engineering train. So be a good experience. I've never done it. I've been here 16 years. So
you're one lucky guy.
All right, we'll stop at the top of the sheep jump again for more pictures. Please continue to ask the questions. Quite a bit. They try to publish the train schedules a couple months in advance. Yeah, so it's worked in the train schedules. That way we know what our traffic looks like, because we can really forecast. We'd be lying to you if we said we can forecast out 48 hours what our inbounds are, just because of variability at other terminals. So if we're looking 24 hours out, you're probably pretty close to what our actually influx is going to be.
How many hours a day does this place run?
Yep. Question was asked, how often or how much does this yard run or operate? 24/7, 365. There's always someone here doing some function or capacity.
This facility is so busy here.
And we have our company's largest diesel repair shop, production shop here, as well as car shop. So the 2 largest locomotive and car shops are here in North Platte. We don't shut down. We'll slow down maybe, just to try to dig switches out and stuff like that. It can get pretty nasty out here in western Nebraska with snow and wind, for those of you who don't know. And it can just be absolutely miserable out here at times. Just a polite way to say that.
So for a facility like this, for when you guys do an event like rail days, like what we're doing right now, does the yard's capacity slow down at all, or do you keep running at the same pace?
Nope, we don't slow down. Nope, we try to keep businesses going, because I can tell you, if I called one of our largest customers up and said, hey, we got an event going on in North Platte,
oh yeah,
we're going to slow your traffic down, they're going to say, what do we pay you for?
That makes sense. I was never sure, but
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh,
So we always try to think about our customer. We want to get their goods. Eventually, we all at some point will probably buy one of the products that are on one of these trains. So the faster we can get it from point A to point B, whether empty or load, helps that customer out tremendously. I know a customer down in Louisiana that does a lot of lumber. Man, he loves empty cars. He said, man, you can send me empty cars, I'll load up every one of them. The more empties you give me, I'll load them up. I want empties. So he wants to generate his revenue as well. So that's east receiving. East receiving's on the west end of our yard. That makes sense to anybody? Yeah, so all the trains from the west will come into east receiving and go over the east hump. That's why we call that. Remember, the hump's in line on the east side. It's not side by side. So as you look forward, as we drive forward here, you'll come up to the east hump. You can see the crest of the hump there. Remember, 32 feet. It's a mound. So the east hump has 2 tracks as well. It can hump down, just like the west hump. Now, these east receiving tracks are pretty long as well, probably average 10,000, 9,000 feet, so we will double over a lot of the trains that come in from the west. At that point, we'll come in with our car techs or carmen. We'll bleed off all the air on the cars, do a quick inspection, and then they'll get humped over the east hump. So we can't hump the cars over with brakes. That's why we bleed the air off of them. There's no brakes on them when we go over the hill. That way they roll. Great question. How long does it take to air up a train? A lot of factors in that. Let's say about 10 to 15 minutes. We have yard air compressors at every one of our yards. Then lines dug underneath the track with a handle that comes out right at the track, and that's how we air up all our trains. So yard air. And then when the locomotive comes, the train's already aired up. They'll quickly do their consist test and they're ready to go. This is the old fueling rack here. They used to bring in tank cars and stuff like that. I believe so. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Coming up East Hump, and we'll stop on the south side of the East Hump. Good deal. Wade's got a good spot for us. Any other questions? Anything coming to mind that you haven't thought about or haven't talked about? Yes.
Is there a law how long you can block an intersection in the United States?
I couldn't hear it, sorry.
He's asking how long can you block an intersection for if like a train stops on a grade crossing?
Yeah, so yes and no. So certain communities have like a handshake agreement set up. We try not to block. You know, if you look at suburbs of Chicago, you don't. If you block crossings there, sometimes there's no way around for miles without getting into more traffic. So ideally, no, we don't want to block crossings, but there's no laws in place. Try to do handshake deals the best we can to clear up as quick as we can. Obviously, if there's an emergency or something like that, it's going to take a little bit longer. So we try to be respectful to our communities and try to help out in those communities. But sometimes it's not good, and we don't like it either. Oh, steepest grade that we can go up or down? That's a great question. I don't think it's much over 3%. Which, you know, if in your car you'll travel out west, you go over 8%, 7% grade when you're going like Sierra Nevadas, over, you know, the Donner Pass, or even up in the Rockies, you'll have 8% grade on our roads. But train is much less, and it takes a lot of effort to pull that many tons up, you know, up that grade. All right, we're going under the East Hump right now. And Wade's going to get us a good spot. We'll be able to look at the East Hump just like we did at the West Hump. This hump is, 12 feet taller than the West Hump. There's a switch set going down in the bowl. Probably going to go a couple stuff up if it didn't make a joint down there. Or bring pullbacks up to the hump and hump them again, re-humps. They're getting ready to do a big project up here. They're going to replace some diamonds right at the top of the crest of the hump. That's why you see a lot of these parts, switch stands. This isn't a junkyard, if anybody was asking. It's just there's a lot of our extra parts that we're getting ready for some of the jobs that we got coming up. A lot of switch stands and hand throw derails, switches.
There's the compressor building.
There you go. So the question up here was, how do you tell a privately owned car versus a UP car with the initials? Anybody know?
There's the compressor building.
There you go. But there's an X at the back of the number or the initial. If it's a privately owned car, there'll be an X on the back. Yep, there's our retarders off to the left-hand side here, some older ones, and some ones in service off to the left-hand side. You can see there's many banks at different points. As you come down the crest of the hump, there's a set. There's more between here, and there's ones even further. And then there's ones at the very end that help the cars not to blow out the other end. because it's a natural bowl when it comes down. But if you get enough momentum and speed, they'll try to shoot out the other end. So we have, again, another set of retarders on that east end that keeps them in their skates to keep the cars in the bowl. You can look down the tracks and everything like that.
That is truly wild.
Yes, cold weather will affect a lot of these parts. We got to change the shoes in the retarders. We do hump maintenance at least once a week on both humps, where we come in and inspect the retarders, change the shoes out, just metal plates. Yep, this is all pneumatically operated. Question back there. How do we re-rail a car? There's a couple ways. We have a thing called frogs. It's very old-fashioned, big piece of steel. It's got like a ramp on it that if the wheels are close enough to the rail, we can shove that car, pull that car up onto the rail. Now, if the trucks and wheels are too far away from the rail, we'll have to call a contractor in with, we call them side, like pipe laying caterpillars. Yep, side boom tractors. And we'll have to pick it up and put it back on the rail. That's obviously more costly and time consuming. If we can frog a car on, we will, or we can use blocks or chain. There's many different ways to try to get loads and empties up on back on the rail. Another question back there.
He was asking what happens if a car comes off the rails, if the car like fully derails.
Oh, so if a car comes all the way off. So if we talk about like Glidden, Iowa, on Monday, I had to go out there and look at that derailment, that mainline derailment. We had 35 intermodal wells out there, so we had a big pile of cars, literally. So what we do is take those side booming cats and start dragging cars off the main line to try to clear up the main line so we can cut grade and put new track up. That answer your question? Yep. Another question. So that equipment's, so we have used about 4 main contractors around the country. They're nationwide, so they're in different locations. We have one here in North Platte. Holcher Services is one of them. We have one up in Scotts Bluff in this area, Kansas City, Des Moines. You know, if we're looking at locations, those are kind of locations close to us. So if the bad thing happens, we have to call in from those locations and they have to respond as quick as they can. So they'll respond 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365, any hour, time, weather, they'll be here. No, at one time we used to do a lot of our own re-railing, but you talk about variability, safety-wise, there's just a lot of bad things that can happen when you deal with that big equipment. And then also having the manpower and the qualifications to operate all that equipment. A lot of factors that it's a lot easier to hire a contractor. We do, yep. RJ Corman in Scotts Bluff is